my wonderful third graders. I hope you are having a fantastic day. Today we're going to start lesson 9 of our ancient Roman civilization unit, and we're continuing to talk about Julius Caesar. And this is his later years. So we talked about last time how he got started, and now we're going to talk about a very dreadful ending for our friend Julius Caesar. Some vocabulary words you will hear throughout the lesson. Conqueror is someone who takes over countries, lands, or areas belonging to other people. A dictator is a ruler of a country who is not elected by its people and who has absolute power. Resolve is a verb to settle or solve something, to find a solution to a problem. Siege is a noun. It's an attack of a protected area by an army or group to defeat the people defending it and to gain control of the area. Uncivilized is an adjective. It describes something or someone having complete disregard for or no knowledge of the proper way to behave. Barbaric, crude. Maybe your parents or your teacher in the past has said, "Stop acting uncivilized, behave." So what have we learned so far? Let's fill in the blanks together. At first, Julius Caesar was to become a blank, but a family feud caused him to be a blank instead. That's right. He was going to be a priest to the god Jupiter, but there was a family feud that caused him to become a soldier. After serving in the army, what was Julius Caesar awarded for his bravery? Did he get a trophy? Did he get money? No, he got the civic crown, which, if you remember, was that crown on his head that looked like a leaf headband. With whom did Julius Caesar form an alliance, and what problem did they work to solve together? He formed an alliance with Pompey to gain things they wanted, such as land and power. So they worked together. Is that alliance going to last? We will find out today. Julius Caesar served as a consul, a very powerful position. After that, he went on to serve as proconsul. What area did he hope to conquer as proconsul? The land to the north of Rome, present-day France, called Gaul, and Germany, where the people were considered to be barbarians by many Romans. All right, here we go. Let's hear about the rest of Julius Caesar's story. As you heard in the previous read aloud, Gallic soldiers were not able to put up much of a fight in some areas, and so Julius Caesar thought he was going to be able to conquer Gaul quite easily. The Romans thought that the people in Gaul were uncivilized, and they wanted to conquer them so they would adopt Roman ways and culture. But the Gauls, led by a powerful Gallic chieftain named Vercingetorix, rose up and rebelled against him. Vercingetorix united several powerful Gallic tribes, and for a few months it appeared as though the Gauls might be able to succeed against their Roman conquerors. Unfortunately for the Gauls, Julius Caesar and his legions would not be easy to defeat. Caesar's men would follow him anywhere. Julius Caesar was loved by soldiers because he favored being out in front of his army, fighting alongside the common soldiers. His men respected him for it, even though it may have terrified them to see their leader so close to danger. If a group of people is considered uncivilized, it means they are viewed as having complete disregard for or no knowledge of the proper way to behave. How uncivilized. Who remembers a Greek, well, you wouldn't know this, but a Greek conqueror whose men followed him with such loyalty because he always led the charge into battle? Alexander the Great is a very famous Greek conqueror that was similar to Julius Caesar. Aside from being courageous, Julius Caesar was a brilliant commander. He kept up with the latest in Roman technology, and his armies fielded weapons that the Gauls had never imagined. Julius Caesar favored the ballista in battle, which was like a giant catapult or crossbow used to throw weapons. The Gauls were terrified when they faced the ballista on the battlefield. Julius Caesar put all his technology to use during one particular siege, the battle in which he finally defeated Vercingetorix. Vercingetorix. A siege is a long, drawn-out battle in which one army has retreated behind the fortress walls of a city, and the other army surrounds the fortress and tries to break in. A siege could take months or even years to resolve. If the one army could not break down the city walls or climb over them, then they would wait until the defenders in the city ran out of food or water. All right, so the weapon, the ballista, was another one of Rome's ingenious inventions. Pretty cool. Thanks to the ballista and other weapons used in battle, Julius Caesar was able to force the Gallic chieftain Vercingetorix to surrender. Vercingetorix spent several years in jail and was killed when Caesar finally returned to Rome. So here you can see a statue of Vercingetorix. When he returned to Rome, Julius Caesar threw a military parade for himself called a triumph. In this parade, Gallic warriors were in chains. Commander Julius Caesar and his soldiers marched around Rome, showing off prizes and basking in cheers and applause from the citizens of Rome. While Caesar had many admirers, he still had many enemies. To his enemies' horror, Julius Caesar had returned to Rome more powerful than ever. What did these captured Gallic warriors likely become to the Romans? What do you think? They probably became their slaves. That's how they got their slaves. Before marching his army into Rome, Julius Caesar had led his legions across the Rubicon River in northern Italy and then south into the city of Rome. Marching an army into Rome was against an old Roman law. By crossing the Rubicon River, Caesar was perceived as a threat who might try to take over the government. Julius Caesar knew that what he had done would start a civil war. This meant that Romans were going to fight against each other. When Caesar crossed the Rubicon River, Caesar said, "The die is cast," meaning that he knew exactly what would happen if he crossed the Rubicon, and he was ready to see if Fortuna would favor his bravery. So the saying "crossing the Rubicon" is used today to describe an action that is brave, daring, and often reckless. What is a civil war? Well, we had a civil war here in the United States. So a civil war is when people in the same country, in the same group, have different views and they go to war within themselves. So like in the United States, the North and the South were fighting against each other in the Civil War. The die is cast means that there is no going back to change one's actions. Dice are cubes used in games of chance. One cube is called a die. Once you cast or throw the die, you have to accept what you roll. So he's like, I've done it, and I know it's going to happen, and I did it on purpose, and I'm Julius Caesar. Caesar's old ally, Pompey, was now his greatest enemy. Pompey did not like all the power and glory Caesar had. Pompey raised an army of his own to fight Caesar. It was a bloody civil war that lasted several years. Through it all, Julius Caesar remained a hero to most plebeians. During his time in Roman politics, Caesar preferred passing laws that favored the lowly over the rich in Rome society and members of the Senate. In the end, Caesar's army won the civil war and Pompey was killed. Caesar unexpectedly had mercy on many of his other enemies within Rome. Rather than kill all his enemies, as most ancient Roman leaders would have done, Caesar tried to heal the wounds of civil war by trying to unite the Romans. Caesar was now the dictator of Rome, meaning he was the main ruler who could make decisions without needing the approval of consuls. This was very different from the process of checks and balances, which the Romans had relied upon to control the power of the consuls. Julius Caesar and his armies continued to conquer other lands, extending Rome's influence throughout nearly all of the Mediterranean. After one battle, Caesar famously claimed, Veni, Vidi, Vici, meaning in Latin, I came, I saw, I conquered. Veni, Vidi, Vici. Julius Caesar wanted to import wheat, among other things, from Egypt into Rome. Thanks to the lush farmland along the Nile, there was enough wheat in Egypt to feed all of Rome. Julius Caesar crossed the Mediterranean Sea to seize Egypt's wealth. Once there, however, Caesar met Queen Cleopatra, and instead he fell in love. Cleopatra was considered to be an extraordinary person. She was incredibly smart and clever. When Cleopatra walked into a room, everyone wanted to hear what she had to say. Cleopatra was involved in her own political problems and civil war in Egypt. She was fighting her brother, Ptolemy, for control of the Egyptian throne. Caesar helped her settle her problem by having Ptolemy killed. After Ptolemy's death, Cleopatra became queen of Egypt, and much needed shipments of Egyptian wheat were soon exported to Rome. Wheat is a grain that can be used to make flour, which is used to make bread, a popular Roman food. Since Caesar and Cleopatra were helping one another to achieve common goals, what could we say they had with one another? They had an alliance, right? They were working together, just like Caesar had an alliance with Pompey until they decided to fight each other and he killed him. Eventually, Caesar's enemies gained the upper hand. They worried that as Caesar became more powerful, he might declare himself king. Many members of the Senate became jealous and wanted to remove Caesar from power. In one of history's most famous deaths, Caesar was killed on the floor of the Roman Senate. It was the Ides of March, March 15th, 44 BC, before Christ. The word Ides means middle and refers to the middle day of the month. Another famous saying related to ancient Rome is beware the Ides of March, a warning to Julius Caesar about his own upcoming death from the play Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. So that was a very famous death, and people remember March 15th for that reason. 60 Roman senators led by Junius Brutus secretly plotted to murder Caesar in the Roman Senate. According to legend, Julius Caesar's last words were "Et tu, Brute." This means, "And you, Brutus?" Caesar was surprised to discover that Brutus, someone he considered an ally, was a part of the plan to murder him. For all the troubles he faced during his time as dictator of Rome, Julius Caesar died a hero in the eyes of most Roman people. Oh, what a horrible ending to Julius Caesar. And what a difference Rome is in right now. You heard that Julius Caesar went to battle with the tribe of the Gauls. Where were they located? The Gauls were located to the north in the area known today as France. How would you describe the Gauls? Brave warriors, excellent iron workers, good at making weapons and armor, cooperated with other tribes, had their own money, religion, they had their own civilization. They were not barbarians like the Romans thought. In the beginning of the war between the Gauls and Caesar, which side seemed like it would win? The Romans. You heard that a chieftain named I cannot say his name. Barrison von Guberitz led an uprising, and then it looked like the Gauls may have a chance. Who ended up winning the final siege or battle? Caesar for Rome. What helped Rome to be victorious over the Gauls? The Romans had many men, and they used the latest war technology, including the ballista. Julius Caesar was a courageous leader with many loyal followers. After conquering the Gauls, what rule did Caesar break? What did he do? He crossed the Rubicon River and entered the city of Rome with his legions. Who became his top enemy after breaking this rule? his former ally, Pompey. You heard that Julius Caesar became the dictator of Rome, making him very powerful. What is a dictator? A dictator is a ruler who can make decisions without needing the approval of the consul, senate, or anyone else. So there's countries now that have dictators, like North Korea is a really well-known country that has a dictator that he can basically tell everybody what to do, and he tells his army what to do, and nobody really questions what he says. How is this different from how the Senate of Rome had functioned in the past? The Senate had functioned by the election of the people. The two consuls had power to veto a decision and also had to agree with each other in order to keep a balance of power. How is Cleopatra important to the Roman civilization? Well, Julius Caesar fell in love with Cleopatra and he helped her win a civil war in Egypt, and she agreed to allow Caesar to import wheat from Egypt into Rome so the Romans could have more wheat for bread. Julius Caesar continued to expand Rome's territory, becoming more and more powerful. What did the jealous senators do? They murdered him in the Senate building. On what famous day did this happen? The Ides, or 15th of March. Our word for today is uncivilized. In the read aloud you heard the Romans thought the people in Gaul were uncivilized, and they wanted to conquer them so they would adopt Roman ways and cultures. Say the word uncivilized. Uncivilized. Uncivilized means having complete disregard for or no knowledge of the proper way to behave. Okay, so maybe someone's called you uncivilized when you're acting crazy with your siblings or your friends or something. All right, so civilized would mean that you do what you have manners and you do what's acceptable. And then when we add the prefix un means not. And so uncivilized means not civilized. Good job, third graders. Hope you enjoyed learning about the Roman ruler and dictator, Julius Caesar. We're going to continue learning about more Roman rulers throughout this week. Hopefully, the rest of them don't have as horrible an ending as Julius Caesar.